Road to GH will revealing the latest behind-the-scenes leaks from General Hospital have officially confirmed the arrival of an entirely new and highly promising character on the show's villain roster of Ross Cullum, the director of the WSB, portrayed by Andrew Hawks. This revelation has sent shockwaves through the longtime GH fan community, as Ross is not only a high-ranking intelligence officer but also a figure shrouded in mystery and danger, one who has now been revealed as a secret associate of Jen Sidwell, one of the most menacing antagonists currently operating in Port Charles. Ross made his on-screen debut in the January 14th episode, and his chilling presence has already set the stage for a new wave of darkness about to descend upon the town, potentially threatening central characters such as Carly, Anna, Valentine, and even Jason, should he return. In an exclusive interview with TV Insider, Andrew Hawks shared his journey to landing the role of Ross Cullum. According to the actor, he had auditioned for various GH roles in the past, but none ever felt like the right fit until now. From the moment he first read the character breakdown for Ross, Hawks felt a powerful connection. Ross is not an over-the-top villain. He is quiet, composed, yet deeply menacing, someone who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. He represents a new kind of danger, one that lurks in the shadows, calculates every move, and strikes only when the moment is perfect. Hawks felt drawn to the understated menace of the character and knew instinctively that this was the role he had been waiting for. During the audition process, Hawks had the opportunity to read lines with Laura Wright, who portrays Carly Spencer, one of the show's most iconic and emotionally charged characters. According to Hawks, the chemistry in that reading was electric, a moment where fiction and reality briefly merged, and he felt fully immersed as Ross Cullum. That interaction solidified the team's confidence in his ability to embody the calculated, dangerous persona the role demanded. It wasn't long after that Hawks officially received the offer, cementing his place as a new threat in the General Hospital universe. Despite his excitement, Hawks admitted that the sheer volume of dialogue he had to learn was intimidating. Soap operas are infamous for their fast-paced production schedules and dense scripts, and GH is no exception. Memorizing pages of lines while maintaining the emotional nuance and psychological complexity of a character like Ross was no easy task. Still, Hawks welcomed the challenge. He expressed his admiration for the long-standing GH cast, whose professionalism and intensity inspired him to step up and fully commit to the demands of the role. With each scene, he became more confident that Ross was not just another one-off villain, but rather a long-term game-changer for the show's evolving storylines. Ross Cullum's arrival has also opened the door to countless story possibilities. As Sidwell's secret partner, Ross could be the one orchestrating many of the covert operations tied to the mysterious Spoon Island lab, a site already linked to unethical biological experiments, disappearances, and psychological warfare. If Sidwell is the blade, Ross is the hand that wields it, cold, efficient, and unyielding. His methods aren't loud or flashy. Instead, he operates through manipulation, political power, and psychological intimidation. The scope of his threat extends far beyond Carly's entanglement. Characters like Anna Devane, with her long-standing WSB history, or Valentine Casadini, whose past is riddled with secrets, may also find themselves trapped in Ross's expanding web. Casting an actor like Andrew Hawks, known for his theater work and nuanced portrayals of morally complex characters, signals GH's intent to deepen the show's narrative direction. The writers appear poised to explore darker, more layered story arcs that delve into psychological manipulation, political espionage, and emotional warfare. Ross is not here to create momentary chaos. He's here to reshape the battlefield, slowly and methodically undermining the lives and alliances of Port Charles' most powerful figures. As Hawks described him, Ross doesn't need to shout to be noticed. But when he speaks, you'll have no choice but to listen. Beyond the character's ominous aura, Ross Cullum also represents a creative pivot for General Hospital. In recent years, audiences have grown increasingly invested in storylines that go beyond love triangles and family drama. They crave danger with emotional stakes, villains who believe in their own sense of justice, and mysteries that unravel across months, not just episodes. Ross may be the answer to that call. His background in the WSB, combined with his alliance with Sidwell, suggests that the show is ready to pull back the curtain on a larger conspiracy, one that could implicate not just individuals but entire institutions that the residents of Port Charles have long trusted. Hawks' early performance as Ross has already drawn praise from fans and critics alike. His stoic demeanor, layered expressions, and quietly menacing energy make him a standout in every scene he's in. There is a sense that Ross is always several steps ahead, playing a long game that no one else even realizes they're part of. If Helena Casadini once ruled through legacy and fear, Ross Cullum rules through precision and psychological dominance. He doesn't need to resurrect the past to be dangerous, he creates his own future, and it's one where anyone could be a pawn, a threat, or a casualty. In short, Andrew Hawks' portrayal of Ross Cullum may be the beginning of a new era for General Hospital. With his entrance, the show introduces a villain who is subtle yet lethal, calm yet calculating, and above all, patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to strike. As Port Charles braces for what lies ahead, one thing is certain, Ross Cullum isn't just passing through, he's here to take control, one move at a time. Although his role on General Hospital is still in its infancy, Andrew Hawks is already being embraced by the show's loyal fan base as one of the most compelling new additions to the canvas. As Ross Cullum, the ruthless and enigmatic director of the WSB, Hawks has made a quiet but unforgettable entrance into Port Charles, a man of few words but vast power, whose alliance with Jen Sidwell has already positioned him at the center of a growing storm. But behind the scenes, Hawks is navigating a whirlwind of his own, adjusting to the relentless pace of daytime drama while simultaneously expressing profound admiration for the team that makes it all possible. In recent interviews, Hawks has been quick to praise the exceptional professionalism behind General Hospital. From the directors to the camera crew, from wardrobe to writers. He notes that the show's success isn't merely the result of good scripts or strong performances, it's the product of a deeply collaborative and flawlessly orchestrated machine. For a series that's aired for over 6 decades, GH continues to run with astonishing precision, and that rhythm is something Hawks has come to respect immensely. He calls the experience both humbling and exhilarating, comparing it to being dropped into the middle of a storm, only to find everyone around you dancing in the rain like it's choreography. Yet what may surprise many is that GH isn't Andrew Hawks' first experience with the world of daytime television. Over a decade ago, in 2014, Hawks briefly appeared on The Young and the Restless as an unnamed thief, a blink and you'll miss it role with just 2 lines of dialogue and a single scene. At the time, he was still early in his career, taking small parts wherever he could to gain footing in an industry known for fierce competition and little patience. That appearance, though minor, left a lasting impression on him. He recalls the nerves of stepping onto a soap opera set for the first time, feeling like an outsider in a world already spinning at full speed. Still, the experience planted a seed of curiosity about this genre that requires emotional immediacy and razor-sharp memory, all under tight shooting schedules and limited takes. Now, years later, Hawks is being called upon not just for a few lines, but for a mountain of material. Since joining General Hospital, he's had to memorize up to 65 pages of dialogue in just 6 days, a feat that would intimidate even seasoned soap veterans. And like primetime shows where actors might shoot a few pages over a week, daytime demands volume, stamina, and consistency. Hawks admitted that the transition was jarring at first, particularly as Ross Cullum isn't a background character, but one that demands gravitas, timing, and nuance in every appearance. The character is written with sharp intellect and hidden motives, meaning even the smallest gestures must carry weight. But far from being discouraged, Hawks has embraced the challenge with open arms, calling it a workout for the mind, soul, and ego in the best possible way. What makes the challenge even more rewarding, according to Hawks, is how much trust the creative team has placed in him. From the moment he stepped on set, he was encouraged to explore Ross's psychological depth, not just play him as a villain, but as a man with a carefully buried past and a dangerous future. In his own words, Ross doesn't just want control, he believes he's the only one who can bring order to the chaos. That kind of internal conflict, layered under his interactions with characters like Carly Spencer, makes him more than a threat. It makes him a ticking time bomb with a moral compass dangerously skewed by logic and obsession. Although he had never played a recurring soap opera role before GH, Hawks's classical theater background has uniquely prepared him for the demands of the genre. With a strong foundation in Shakespearean tragedy and contemporary psychological thrillers, he's accustomed to dissecting dense dialogue, working under pressure, and carrying emotional arcs that unfold gradually over time. That discipline now serves him well, especially as Ross begins to appear more frequently in key storylines involving the WSB's secret operations, Sidwell's escalating ambition, and the growing threat posed to central characters like Anna and Carly. On a more personal level, Hawks has spoken candidly about how the GH experience has reinvigorated his passion for acting. After years of navigating independent films, stage work, and short guest spots, he had begun to question whether the industry still had space for actors like him or those who thrive on layered characters rather than headline fame. GH, he says, gave him not just a role, but a purpose. The moment he received the call that he had been cast as Ross, he felt a kind of professional validation that had long eluded him. It was no longer about chasing opportunities, it was about earning them. Fans who have watched Hawks in his first few episodes can attest to the intensity he brings to every scene. Ross Cullum's cool exterior barely conceals a mind constantly calculating risk, threat, and leverage. The way Hawks delivers his lines measured, deliberate, and laced with veiled menace suggests that this character has already anticipated the next 10 moves of every person in the room. He doesn't posture or boast, which makes him even more unnerving. There's no need for volume when your presence alone is unsettling. In a fictional universe already crowded with schemers, mobsters, and master manipulators, Ross offers a different flavor of villainy. He's the bureaucrat from hell, polished, poised, and backed by an intelligence agency that grants him both authority and anonymity. He doesn't need a weapon when he has surveillance. He doesn't need an accomplice when he has dossiers. In many ways, he's a mirror image of the system itself, cold, strategic, and virtually untouchable. And for Carly, Anna, and the others, that makes him far more dangerous than the average enemy, because Ross doesn't come at you screaming, he waits until you're out of options. As the weeks unfold and Ross Cullum's role expands, Andrew Hawks is poised to become a standout figure in the GH pantheon, one who may not be the loudest, but certainly among the most chilling. Whether he's orchestrating WSB cover-ups, blackmailing local officials, or slowly isolating his targets, Ross has already begun to weave his web through Port Charles. And at the center of that web is Hawks, an actor finally given the space to showcase what he can do, rising to meet the moment with every page, every scene, and every haunting glance. In the end, while many soap villains burn bright and fast, Ross Cullum feels like a slow-burning fuse, one that could smolder for years. And Andrew Hawks, once just a nameless thief with 2 lines on a rival show, has now become a powerful, resonant presence, a man who stepped back into daytime not just to act, but to dominate. Despite the overwhelming volume of work, Andrew Hawks remains energized and deeply fulfilled by the challenges his new role presents. Transitioning into the high-pressure environment of General Hospital, where shooting schedules are relentless and expectations are high, has only deepened his admiration for the craft and sharpened his sense of discipline. Rather than feeling daunted by the scale of responsibility, Hawks has embraced the opportunity with a rare mixture of humility and exhilaration. He openly admits that the demands are intense, learning over 60 pages of dialogue within days, often while filming multiple emotionally charged scenes back-to-back, but for him, it's a kind of creative boot camp that has reawakened the performer in him. It's not just a job, it's a test of resilience, precision, and passion, and he wouldn't have it any other way. What makes this role particularly electrifying for both Hawks and viewers is the complexity of the character he portrays. Director Ross Cullum is not a typical soap opera villain defined by theatrics or overt malice. Instead, he is a cerebral, quiet storm, calculated, cold, and unnervingly calm. There's something haunting about the way he enters a room, like he's already studied every weakness, mapped every escape route, and anticipated your next 5 moves before you've even spoken. Ross represents the kind of villain who doesn't need to raise his voice because his silence says enough. His presence alone alters the dynamic, and that subtle intimidation is something Hawks is proud to explore. He's a man who has witnessed the darkest corners of human psychology, Hawks reflected in a recent interview. I don't know how you could see and do the things this character has done and not come out changed, not become hardened, maybe even fractured. That observation hints at a deep well of trauma within Ross Cullum, a past perhaps filled with unspeakable acts committed in the name of national security or personal survival. Hawks is committed to portraying those invisible scars with empathy and nuance, suggesting that while Ross is undeniably dangerous, he is also a man whose soul has been shaped and possibly damaged by the very institutions that now grant him power. It is that duality, power and pain, that makes Ross Cullum such a compelling antagonist. He isn't evil for evil's sake. He believes in control, order, and efficiency, and if that requires bending morals or destroying lives, so be it. From Hawks' perspective, the beauty of the character lies in this contradiction. Ross is not merely a manipulator, but a believer in his own brand of justice. And because his convictions are so firm, so internally justified, they become all the more frightening. Villains who act out of chaos can be disarmed, but those who believe they are saving the world, those are the ones you should truly fear. Since his debut, Ross has already begun to weave himself into the fabric of Port Charles, appearing in scenes with major players like Jen Sidwell, Pascal portrayed by Mark Forget, and Jack Brennan played by Chris McKenna. Each interaction has revealed a slightly different facet of his influence. With Sidwell, there's a chilling camaraderie to men cut from the same ruthless cloth, bonded by shared secrets and sinister objectives. With Pascal, there's friction layered with quiet authority, as though Ross is testing the limits of his underlings, always calculating who might crack first. And with Jack Brennan, the chemistry is particularly ominous, to powerhouses circling each other, cloaked in suspicion and mutual distrust. What's particularly fascinating is how Ross operates in these interactions without ever appearing desperate for control. He doesn't demand it, he simply expects it, and more often than not, people yield. Hawks has approached these scenes with careful restraint, allowing Ross's menace to surface in slight tilts of the head, prolonged eye contact, or carefully timed silences. His performance doesn't scream villainy, it whispers it, and somehow that's even more unnerving. As more episodes air, viewers will undoubtedly be eager to learn the full extent of Ross Cullum's reach. There are whispers that his influence may tie into the murky history of the WSB, the operations on Spoon Island, and perhaps even some long-buried secrets involving legacy characters. Is he the architect behind recent disappearances? Is he manipulating both allies and enemies to serve a hidden agenda? Or is Ross simply the first visible pawn in a much larger conspiracy that will shake Port Charles to its core? Andrew Hawks relishes these open-ended questions. For him, part of the thrill of portraying Ross is the unpredictability. The writers haven't revealed everything yet, not to me, not to anyone. But I know that whatever they have planned, it's going to be worth the wait, he teased. This sense of narrative suspense mirrors the character's own mysterious nature. Just as Ross plays his cards close to the chest, so too does the show in how it unveils his backstory. And that slow burn, Hawks believes, is what will keep audiences on edge. Behind the camera, Hawks has quickly formed strong working relationships with many of his scene partners. He describes Chris McKenna, Jack Brennan, as an actor with a razor-sharp focus and a gift for subtle intensity, making every shared scene crackle with tension. Working with Carlo Rota, Jen Sidwell has also been a highlight, as both actors bring a methodical energy to their performances that pushes each other toward more layered takes. Even off-screen, the camaraderie is strong, with the cast exchanging theories about where the story might lead, a testament to the collaborative spirit GH fosters despite its demanding pace. At the core of all this is a man and actor who once had 2 lines in a soap opera nearly a decade ago, and who now finds himself at the center of a major storyline with deep narrative stakes. Andrew Hawks' evolution from a nameless thief on The Young and the Restless to a commanding figure on General Hospital is more than a career milestone. It's a story of resilience, patience, and passion for the art of storytelling. And if Hawks continues to channel that passion into Ross Cullum, there's little doubt that General Hospital fans are in for a thrilling, psychologically rich ride, one where every word, every glance, and every quiet threat might be the key to unlocking Port Charles's next big reckoning. As the role of Ross Cullum deepens within the labyrinthine world of General Hospital, viewers can expect even more high-stakes drama unfolding around him. With Andrew Hawks fully stepping into the skin of this dangerously composed WSB director, The next chapters in Port Charles will not only expose the breadth of his power but also entangle him in a collision course with some of the show's most iconic figures. Upcoming scenes will feature intense interactions between Cullum and legacy characters like Anna Devane, portrayed by Finola Hughes, Britt Westburn, Kelly Thibault, and several others whose paths are destined to cross with the growing threat he represents. These confrontations are set to bring a level of narrative sophistication and tension that soap fans have long craved. The decision to pair Ross Cullum with Anna Devane is both strategic and poetic. Anna, with her extensive and conflicted history in the WSB, knows better than anyone what lies beneath the organization's glossy exterior. She has witnessed firsthand how alliances within the agency can quickly become traps, and how loyalty to the WSB can turn into a lifetime of moral compromise. Her instincts are razor-sharp, her radar for deception finely tuned, and that makes her a natural threat to someone like Cullum, a man who thrives on secrets and is threatened by clarity. Their eventual face-off may not be explosive in volume, but it will be tectonic in consequence. The tension between two seasoned operatives, both carrying years of buried history, conflicting agendas, and emotional damage, will feel like a chess match in slow motion. Every glance will carry implication. Every move will matter. Meanwhile, Ross's connection to Britt Westburn opens an entirely different narrative doorway. Britt, whose life has been defined by the sins of her father, the notorious Caesar Faison Anders Hove, now finds herself caught once again in the shadows cast by that legacy. As leaks from production suggest, Ross Cullum was not only a high-ranking WSB official but also a hidden collaborator in one of Faison's most secretive and morally reprehensible projects. What this project involved remains deliberately vague, though speculation points toward covert medical experiments, psychological warfare initiatives, or even biochemical weaponry, all potentially tied to the infamous Spoon Island lab. The very mention of Faison's name is enough to awaken old scars, and if Ross was part of that circle, then Britt will have to confront not just external threats but the recurring ghost of her own bloodline. Ross's involvement in Faison's past adds another layer of psychological complexity to his character. He's not merely a manipulator of power structures, he's someone who has engineered them from within for years, perhaps decades. He represents not only the continuity of WSB corruption, but its modernization. While Faison operated from the margins, chaotic and unhinged, Ross brings clinical discipline to the same brand of moral erosion. He wears bureaucracy like armor, using his title and influence to do what monsters like Faison did in basements and back alleys. This evolution from brute force to institutional darkness may be one of GH's most compelling villain arcs in recent years. According to insider reports from the General Hospital set, Ross Cullum isn't finished weaving his web of influence. Far from it. Upcoming episodes will feature unexpected twists and bold tactical plays designed to position Cullum at the heart of several intersecting storylines. Leaks suggest that he may already be undermining certain factions within the WSB, potentially ousting long-standing operatives in favor of loyalists to his private agenda. There are whispers of a coded file hidden inside the WSB's secure archive, containing sensitive data from Faison-era operations, a file that Ross may either be protecting or using as leverage against enemies both internal and external. If that file falls into the wrong hands, or worse, becomes public, it could collapse careers, reputations, and decades of WSB credibility. This revelation would undoubtedly pull in characters like Jason Morgan, Valentin Casadini, and Sonny Corinthos, all of whom have some stake in WSB-related history. It's even rumored that Jason's eventual return, if it happens, may intersect directly with Ross's arc, perhaps as a hired weapon sent to uncover Ross's intentions, or as a protector sent to save someone already entangled in his manipulations. For now, those details remain closely guarded, but one thing is clear: Ross Cullum is not a placeholder villain. He is being meticulously positioned as a long-game antagonist, one who doesn't break in chaos but builds from silence. As Ross continues to unfold on screen, the ripple effects of his actions will begin to shape the future of Port Charles in profound ways. His interactions with Sidwell suggest a partnership built on necessity and mutual benefit, but it's equally likely that either man could turn on the other if trust begins to erode. Meanwhile, Pascal Mark Forget appears increasingly compromised, potentially being used by Ross as a proxy for actions too overt for a director to authorize. If Pascal fails, Cullum will discard him without hesitation. If he succeeds, Cullum reaps the benefit while remaining in the shadows. That's the cold calculus of power Ross lives by. What makes this all the more chilling is how composed he remains throughout. Andrew Hawkes brings a precision to the role that is rare in daytime television. He doesn't rely on explosive monologues or physical dominance. Instead, he embodies menace through silence, through calculated stillness, through the unblinking intensity of someone who believes he is always the smartest person in the room and often is. This control, this restraint, makes him feel untouchable, and therein lies the terror. Port Charles has seen mobsters and madmen, but Ross Cullum is something new, a strategist in a suit, a villain forged in gray areas, fluent in manipulation, and masked by protocol. The next few weeks promise escalation. Ross is preparing to act, not react. The question is no longer if he'll make his move, but how and who will pay the price. There are whispers of a betrayal within the WSB, a Black Ops operation buried so deep it's not even on the agency's radar anymore. And a truth about Faison that no one, not even Brit, is prepared to hear. If any of these threads unravel, they could take beloved characters down with them. So for viewers and longtime fans of General Hospital, the message is clear. Keep watching Ross Cullum. He may have entered quietly, but he is poised to reshape everything. And as more secrets from the past rise to the surface, secrets buried under years of WSB deception, Faison's madness, and the cost of silence, it won't be long before Port Charles realizes just how dangerous one man in a well-tailored suit can be.